afternoon. I'm Dennis Galucki. Welcome to the 471st Imagine Greater Buffalo program and our 93rd virtual Imagine lecture hosted by our wonderful Buffalo and Erie County Public Library. We're so glad you could join us today. This program is created by the Center for the Study of Art, Architecture, History, and Nature, or C-SAAHN as I like to pronounce it, and ImagineLifelongLearning.com. Now, before we get started, just a little housekeeping. Everyone watching will be muted and your video turned off. If you have a question or comment, you can type it into the chat box and we'll go through them at the end of the presentation. We are recording this program so you can watch it again later on the Downtown Central Library's Facebook page and their YouTube channel. And we hope you share the link with others. Now, on to our featured speakers, two today, Barbara Cole and Anne Conable. Barbara is the Artistic Director of Just Buffalo Literary Center and a 2011 Fellow in Poetry from the New York Foundation for the Arts. Barbara Cole began her involvement with Just Buffalo as a teaching artist, working closely with students in the Buffalo Public Schools before joining the organization as Education Director from 2008 to 2012. She has a Master of Arts in Creative Writing and Poetry from Temple University and a PhD in English from the University at Buffalo. Since 2000, she has been writing the ongoing long poem project affectionately known as Foxymoron. Anne Conable is the Manager of Community Engagement at the Buffalo and Erie County Public Library. She coordinates and implements community-based programs and collaborative projects, working with many individuals and organizations in the Erie County community on bringing programming to the library. Anne and Barbara are here today to talk about the Lit City event that is happening later this week. So, Barbara and Anne, take it away.
There we go. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Thanks so much, Dennis, for that lovely introduction. It's such a joy to be connected with everyone virtually, and I'm delighted to be partnering today's conversation with Anne Conable, who's such a delightful partner, and we just love working with the library. So I'm going to talk a little bit about Just Buffalo Literary Center. I see some names that are familiar, so and some new names. So I think whether you're a longtime loyal supporter or a new person, hopefully you'll learn a little something today. I'm going to talk a little bit about Just Buffalo Literary Center and the events that we have coming up, and then a very special event that we have together that we're offering with the library at the Downtown Reading Park. So to break things up a little and make it visually interesting, I'm going to share my screen so that everyone can see some of the slides that I've prepared. Oops, sure I am. Let's try that again. That look good? Everybody seeing that slide of the typewriter mural we have outside of Just Buffalo space?
Looks good.
Fantastic. So at Just Buffalo, we believe in the love of writing, the love of reading, the art of writing, and the power of the literary arts to transform individual lives and communities. We've been around for over 45 years. And in that time, Just Buffalo has brought some of the world's greatest writers here to Western New York. We've hosted poetry events and readings and supported the development of young writers both in schools and at the Just Buffalo Writing Center, which is our after-school free drop-in writing center for teens. So often when people think of the arts, capital A, They tend to think of visual art, music, dance, and theater. Too often literature is an afterthought. But at Just Buffalo, we're working to change that by advocating always for the power of the literary arts. Our work is grounded in the core beliefs that books change lives and unlock our imaginations, giving us the tools to be free thinkers and fresh innovators, to be empathetic citizens who learn through literature to explore cultures different from our own, and in the process, expand our own small corners of the world. We're perhaps best known for our Babel series, which features some of the most significant authors of our time. When we launched the Babel season back in 2007, our goal was relatively simple: bring 4 of the world's most important writers to create a global conversation right here, right now. So the goal might have been simple enough, but the response has been anything but. Our in-person audiences at Kleinhans average 750 or more people for each event. Those are some of the largest audiences in the country for literary events. We're so proud to have welcomed some of the world's most innovative and important writers here to Buffalo. That list includes the likes of Chinua Achebe from Nigeria, Isabelle Allende from Chile, Amos Oz from Israel, Salman Rushdie, who I think has been in many people's hearts and minds recently, Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie from Nigeria. We've brought authors from Native American and Indigenous communities, Asian and Latinx communities, authors whose work address refugee and migrant issues. We've hosted presidential inaugural poets, LGBTQ icons, and the biggest event in our more than 45-year history with Nobel Prize winner Toni Morrison, who completely sold out Kleinhans and stayed past midnight signing books. The list just goes on and on. And this season is no different. And I think architecture might be the only thing we're not hitting with the art, architecture, history, and nature, but we're definitely hitting art, history, and nature with this coming season. On Friday, October 14th, we're kicking off the 16th Babel season with Elizabeth Colbert, who won the Pulitzer Prize in nonfiction for the 6th Extinction and Unnatural History. Elizabeth Colbert is taking up this idea that over the last 500 million years, there have been 5 mass extinctions. Scientists around the world are currently monitoring the 6th, predicted to be the most devastating extinction since the asteroid impact wiped out the dinosaurs. This time around, the cataclysm is us. We are the asteroid. In prose that is at once frank, entertaining, and deeply informed, New Yorker writer Elizabeth Colbert tells us why and how human beings have altered life on the planet in a way no species has before, compelling us to rethink the larger impact of our choices. You might have seen Colbert's newest book, Under a White Sky, The Nature of the Future, which continues many of these same themes. Readers who are interested in climate justice, animal extinction, ecology, water conservation, biodiversity, carbon emissions, solar geoengineering, any environmental issues that are currently impacting us, Colbert's work is just brilliant in unpacking those issues. We know, or we've been told, that climate change is the gravest problem facing humanity. It can feel daunting to know what we can do or where to even begin, but Colbert gives us thoughtful insights on the complexity of the challenges with research that is rooted in science and prose that is beautifully written. Next, in November, we're going to shift our attention from our responsibility toward the planet to our responsibility towards people, as we welcome Omar El Akad, and who shows us the refugee experience through the eyes of a child. Born in Egypt, raised in Qatar, El Akad moved to Canada as a teen and now lives in the US. As a journalist, he's traveled the world, reporting from Afghanistan, Guantanamo Bay, and the Arab Spring. You might know his first book, American War, which was an international bestseller. His new novel, What Strange Paradise, tells the story of a Syrian boy who survives a refugee passage and the teenage girl who rescues him. This is a beautiful, moving book. It's a story of empathy, of hope and despair, about the way that each of those things can blind us to reality. Just a really beautiful human story behind the headlines and statistics. In the spring, we're going to meet another boy and girl caught in the crosshairs of a different war when we'll turn to Anthony Doerr's #1 New York Times best-selling novel, All the Light We Cannot See. This book sold over 15 million copies. It won the Pulitzer Prize for Fiction. It's a gorgeous novel that tells the tale of Marie, a blind girl living in Nazi-occupied France, and Werner, a German orphan who's recruited to track down the resistance. It's wildly suspenseful, structurally daring. Doerr explores everything from love, fear, cruelty, kindness, watches, diamonds, radios. There's so much stuff in this book. It's currently being adapted as a limited series for Netflix by the producers of Stranger Things, starring Mark Ruffalo and Hugh Laurie. If you're a history buff or looking for a suspenseful page turner, this book is for you. It's been called the book of the century, so you do not want to wait to dive in. And finally, we will close the Babel season with Isabelle Wilkerson, winner of the Pulitzer Prize in Journalism and the National Humanities Medal from President Obama. Her most recent book, Cast, was hailed as an instant classic by the New York Times, and Oprah Winfrey called it the most essential and the most necessary for all humanity book that she has chosen for her book club. We're focusing on Wilkerson's remarkable masterwork, The Warmth of Other Suns, which chronicles one of the great untold stories of American history, the decades-long migration of Black citizens who fled the South for northern and western cities in search of a better life. That great migration took place from 1915 to 1970, an exodus of almost 6 million people that changed the face of America, altering our cities, our country, and ourselves. It's been deemed the missing puzzle piece of our country's history. This book took over 10 years to research. Wilkerson interviewed over 1,000 people. Once you've read it, you will not forget its lessons. Once again, around Isabelle Wilkerson's visit, we will launch Just Buffalo's Civil Rights Project. Last year, we were so proud to partner with more than 20 organizations who participated in the Civil Rights Project around Colson Whitehead's visit, focusing on the Underground Railroad. And this year, we will be really continuing the conversation, thinking about freedom seekers. And the Civil Rights Project includes everything from book discussions, film screenings, community conversations, racial healing circles, staged readings. We really want to throw the door open to anyone who's interested in talking about inequities and racism to get involved with the Civil Rights Project. You'll see it's a little play on words there. It's paying homage to the civil rights movement, but this is WRITES. So thinking about the proud tradition of how writers have changed our thinking about freedom and equality. The Civil Rights Project runs April 1st through Juneteenth. This coming year should be especially powerful as it coincides with the 1-year anniversary of the Tops tragedy. All the more essential for us to come together as a community to unite around racial justice work. Though vastly different in styles, all 4 of the authors that I just told you about compel us to assess our place in the world, to examine the histories we've never learned, stories that were never told, truths we can't wait any longer to face. These are stories of resistance and resilience, about the complexity of human connection, showing us what it means to make a choice, and to summon the courage to take action. I'd like to invite everybody out there today to get involved with Babel. If you've never been, let this be your invitation. Don't wait any longer. This is one of the great diamond jewels of Buffalo. You can go to justbuffalo.org and get your ticket. And with your library card, you'll get a special $5 discount off the price of your ticket. And wait, there's more. You can also get more involved with Just Buffalo Literary Center and the Buffalo and Erie County Public Library this very week. In just a few days, on Thursday at the Reading Park, we're going to be hosting a Lit City celebration, bringing together the community to celebrate Buffalo as one of the great literary cities in the world, a home to many of the writers. If you've driven down Washington Street, which is officially Buffalo's literary corridor, you may have seen the banners that are adorning the street, showing some of the many writers who have lived in our town and called it home. People like historic writers like Mark Twain to more contemporary writers like Lauren Belfer. And you may have also seen the names in the sidewalk at the Reading Park. If you haven't seen them before, then for sure you're going to want to come on Thursday and see. It's really impressive to see just the collection of significant writers who have lived in our fair city. This year, the event in the Reading Park is inspired by an initiative we did last year in the midst of the pandemic. We put out a call to the community to tell us what moves you. So many of us were feeling stuck in place. We wanted to think about being moved. And we received a fantastic range of poems and prose pieces from writers all over Western New York, from teenagers to octogenarians. And we took those amazing writing submissions and splashed them on buses, metro rail stations, and bus shelters all over Erie County, to inspire people in their daily lives with the power of the written word. We'll be celebrating those writers who participated in that project this Thursday with music, videos, poetry readings. There'll be some food there. The amazing teens from our after school writing center are going to be writing made to order poems on typewriters. It's just going to be a fabulous festival-like event in the Reading Park that we're so proud to see existing and thriving. The Lit City celebration this Thursday is free and open to the public from 3 to 7. And do you want to talk a little bit about the musicians who are scheduled to perform?
Sure. First of all, we are delighted here at the library to be collaborating with Just Buffalo Literary Center on this event. We've been dying to do this event for a couple of years, and we are very, very pleased that the New York State Council on the Arts is providing some support to help us do this event. So it's been a long time coming, but we're finally going to get to do it on Thursday, and it even looks like the weather's going to be good. So we're very pleased about that as well, not that we control that. We are having several musical groups appearing at the event. We are starting off with the Daughters of Creative Sound. Many of you may be familiar with them. They are a group of 4 marvelous women drummers, who 2 of whom actually are retired librarians from this library, so we love them even more. We also will be hosting Tailor Made Jazz, who will be doing a couple of sets with us. And also we will be hosting Little Cake. So it's an assortment of different types and styles, but it's going to be a really delightful afternoon. So we urge everybody to stop by and relax and hear some poetry, hear some great music. There will be made to order poems if you feel the need to have one of the Just Buffalo Writing Center's young poets come up with a poem just for you. There will be sidewalk poems surrounding the Reading Park, and we're just looking forward to a great afternoon. So we hope everybody will come on down and check it out.
Thanks, Anne. I want to just also give a shout out. If you remember that strip of land next to the library that really just used to be grass, and Anne Conable was the, what do I want to say? The primary innovator who led the charge to turn that just strip of grass into an actual park. And that was such a labor of love and a monumental achievement. And it's such a great green space to be able to come and sit outside the library. And this event is going to be so great to really celebrate the many writers that make the city such a dynamic lit city.
We've had a great season in the Reading Park this year. Finally got to use it to its full extent this summer after the pandemic. And it's been a great journey. We've had all sorts of programs there this summer. We hope that, you know, as the weather comes around again in 2023, that you'll all stop by and check out what we have to offer. We typically have a number of programs there that Just Buffalo puts on. We have music usually of all different types. We're working with the Sportsman's Americana Music Foundation these days for a series of programs here at the library. We have art events, we have reading events, we have just hang out in the park events. So it's been a really great space, an extension of downtown and Lafayette Square. We hosted the Queen City Jazz Festival at the end of July there. So it finally has begun to come into its own, and that's been really gratifying.
Great presentation from the two of you. Thank you very much. Folks, send in your questions. Let's have a little dialogue. I'll ask a quick one. And Anne, by the way, you had, the library had written a grant and it was national competition to get that grant to create this community space. And Buffalo, through your team's efforts, won that. Who was the grantor?
We were stunned, shocked, and amazed to get that grant. It was a one-time only grant from Southwest Airlines. And we were able to develop the park in conjunction with Southwest and with a group in New York City called the Project for Public Spaces, who have done a number of projects here in Buffalo, who are all about placemaking and making quiet spaces into active spaces for people. So this was a perfect fit for redoing that funny little piece of grass into a park, a very special park. We've had wonderful cooperation ever since we got the grant from the city of Buffalo, but particularly from Buffalo Place. I want to acknowledge them. They work with us on a regular basis to maintain that piece of land. And with a number of the neighbors here at the downtown library who have done programs here and who have been very supportive, particularly Just Buffalo, who have been very supportive of that particular space and making it come alive.
Wonderful. And just to reiterate, you said it should be a nice day, but just in case it isn't, the event goes on, it just goes on inside, right?
Yes. That's right. We're fingers crossed, though. It looks like the weather's going to be okay, but you never know, of course, around here.
All the clouds will be done giving us rain. And Barbara, would you just elaborate for a moment your role with Buffalo Public Schools? What does that look like as the once we get past COVID here? What does it normally look like going forward, or in the past? How do you interact with the Buffalo Public School system?
That's a great question and a complicated answer because it changes so much. It's a very dynamic, shifting relationship, but one that is really mutually supportive. So back in the early 1980s, Just Buffalo started collaborating with the Buffalo Public Schools, putting poets and writers in the schools to partner with teachers and to make creative writing really come alive so that it's not just another curriculum moment, but so that students really understood that there were real live living poets and writers walking among them here in the city, and who could teach them different strategies for approaching creative writing. And over the years, that has taken lots of different forms. We've done really beautiful projects involving photography and poetry, and we anthologize every year the writing that comes out of those classroom experiences. We put together an anthology of student writing called Wordplay, which if you go to justbuffalo.org, you can actually see we have many of those issues digitized. But we don't only work with the Buffalo Public Schools, public, private, Catholic, charter, homeschool. We really try to custom design a writer residency or a partnership for each school that is interested in bringing a writer into the classroom, or each teacher. And the Writing Center grew out of that relationship because we realized many times we were going into a classroom maybe 5 times or 10 times, which is actually a huge amount when you think about how much teachers need to accomplish to be able to open their doors and welcome us in that many times was great. But the heartbreaking question we got at the end of every residency, almost without exception, was that students would come up and say, "When are you coming back?" And we realized that we needed to offer them something more beyond just those few moments where we came into the classroom. So the Writing Center, we have been committed from the beginning to offering that as a free opportunity for teens ages 12 to 18. They can take writing workshops on all different subjects: graphic novels, songwriting, college essay writing, fiction, mystery stories, crime novels, whatever it is that they're interested in. They can take workshops that are led by local writers, or they can also work one-on-one with a writer. So if they have a project or a paper that they're working on, they can come get that individualized attention. It's been so exciting now. The Writing Center has been open for 6 years. I think this is our 7th year, and to now see how many of our students have graduated out of the Writing Center, gone on to college, and are still remaining active with Just Buffalo as program assistants, or they're now entering their adult phase of being involved with Just Buffalo. That's really thrilling to see.
Barbara, that's a great story. Melissa, how are we doing for questions?
We do have a few questions. First question, will the library be holding an event in conjunction with National Authors Day this year?
I think we must be talking about Indie Author Day. Yes, we are. That is on November the 5th. It will be here at the Downtown Library, and we will have a series of speakers for people that are independent writers or would like to become independent published writers, with tips and people discussing their experiences, how they got their book published, et cetera, et cetera. We've been part of that since Indie Author Day was invented. I think it was 5 or 6 years ago. And so we feel like we are part of a national movement to support local writers and connect them with their local libraries. That's the intention of Indie Author Day. Anybody who is interested in attending Indie Author Day, it is on our website, and there is a way on our website to register to attend.
And before you go to the next question, just to reiterate that, I've gone to that. It's a great resource for writers and those hoping to publish. Does that whole session get recorded and then available and archived on the library's YouTube site, for instance? What do you think?
No, I don't believe it is or has been. It is an in-person event. Anybody needing more information can certainly call us at 858-8900. It is completely free to attend, but it is only in person.
Okay, it's a great resource. I'll encourage that. Melissa, you had more questions.
The other question we had gotten actually was specifically about Indie Author Day, but I think we've covered that now. So those were all the questions.
Well, that's good. We're the library and that whole Washington Street is a reminder of Just Buffalo Literary Center's presence on Washington, but also the banners. Make sure you look carefully as you go down Washington Street at the names that you'll recognize that are part of Buffalo's history. Barbara, when you said that, you made a bold proclamation that you think Buffalo is got a right to claim some fame relative to the nation in terms of its writers. Just summarize that point, because I want to close with that.
Can you hear me?
Yes, now.
Great, thank you. It is a bold claim, and it is completely justified. So many of the writers who have called Buffalo home, I think, remain a sort of secret to many Western New Yorkers. So that list includes everyone from Mark Twain, who I think many people know, William Wells Brown, who was is credited as the first African-American novelist. So from the 19th century all the way up to contemporary writers, our own Pulitzer Prize winning poet Carl Dennis, who lives here, and you probably see him walking around the street. Joyce Carol Oates grew up in this area. Some of the most important poets of the 20th century, from Robert Creeley and Susan Howe to Lucille Clifton, who maybe I'll be able to come back in a future time and talk to you more about Lucille Clifton, because she is going to take on even more importance here in Buffalo. The list goes on and on. If you go to justbuffalo.org, you can find biographies of so many of the writers that are on those banners and learn more about them. Eric Gansworth, who is one of our very prolific active poets who grew up on the Tuscarora Reservation and is now a professor at Canisius. And who am I forgetting? Some of those historic writers Anne is actually more of an expert on.
Well, Fran Stryker is one of them, who was the writer behind The Lone Ranger. A lot of people don't realize that he's from here. Let's see, Steele McKay, who was a prolific 19th century playwright and theater inventor. Let's see. Oh, there's lots of them. They're all on the sidewalk out in the reading park. And we had quite an interesting exercise when we were putting in the construction for the reading park, just between the library and Just Buffalo, to sort of figure out what is the list. And the list that's there is pretty comprehensive, but it's not everybody. So there's more. And of course, with a wonderful resource like Just Buffalo, there will be more wonderful known writers coming along in the future. So it's been a great partnership, and we will continue working together to encourage reading and writing every way we can.
Well, that block away from Main Street that runs parallel Washington Street, that block between Just Buffalo and the library is a significant way to mark, let's call it a piece of Buffalo's puzzle. And that reading park, outdoor park, and is certainly a visible piece of that puzzle, anchored by Just Buffalo and the downtown library. So it really, if we can enhance awareness, we've done our job today. Folks, spread the word. Thursday it is, so that's why we scheduled this at the last minute, to arrange it to go ahead and make sure this got promoted as best as we could here on the Imagine Greater Buffalo series. So thank you both very much. We've good work. So thank you, and thank you folks for joining us today. We'll see you back here next Tuesday as we hear from Michelle Augusto. Now, she's the art supervisor for Buffalo Public Schools. So it's a nice tie-in with today's presentation, and she'll be talking about the Buffalo Public Schools Summer Arts Enrichment Camp, along with Julio Valenti, and he's a poet and works with that program to help others appreciate the depth and beauty and joy of poetry. So I'm Dennis Galucki. Be well and have a good day.
Thanks so much, everyone.
Thank you.
As well to both of you. Thank you.
Thanks, Dennis. What a pleasure.